Well, I was only going to do one quick video about the Usher. I ended up having to do a second one because I ran out of time. Basically, near the end of the previous video, I was starting to get my thoughts together about a particular subject, and I was getting tongue-tied, and then I realized I was running out of time and I couldn't discuss it. And what I was trying to discuss involved the Usher and the director. Essentially, last year, Michael Roddy was asked a question concerning why did they create the Usher in the first place. If they're going to do a movie year, why didn't they simply use the director again, who was familiar to fans? You know, they kept using Jack over and over and over. Why not use the director again, since they hadn't used him as the icon for the park except in '03 and then you know, part of a group in '06, and you know, the All Night Dying. You know, he was in the a room in one house in '04, but you know, he hasn't been used in any kind of really big way. And Roddy's idea was that, you know, the director is about making movies, whereas Ripped from the Silver Screen was about being trapped in movies, and so it wouldn't have worked for that reason. Now, the Usher then ushers you into the world of movies, and you're not just, you know, he's not just making movies starring you in a starring role, but puts you in the middle of a movie that you're trapped, you can't escape from. It's a slightly different tone. Now, that being said, every single one of the houses the director had been in over the years was not about making movies, but was about being trapped in movies that had already been made, whether it was Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street way back in 1993, or, you know, Silence of the Lambs, or The Ring, and Hellraiser, or whatever house you find yourself caught in. All of these, you know, it didn't quite, and for that reason, the All Night Die-In houses were quite similar to Silver Screams, but with Silver Screams it worked better. You know, the whole idea of going into the movie theater and the different hallways and the movie posters in between room and room, going from one scene of a movie to another, it just sort of flowed together more neatly and nicely than any All Night Die-In ever managed to. And it fit the idea of the character that you're being trapped in the movie, as opposed to, and so the director really has never been given a house, a venue, where he can really be the character that he was created as, to actually be a director of these creepy little snuff films. And the hope is that if he comes back for Halloween Horror Nights 20, he will at last be given this sort of house, a house about him and his movies, not about other movies. And so if there is a movie house with seen some different horror films and movies over the years, let Julian Browning have that house, let the Usher have that house, and the director can have his own house with his own movies, and thus they could have two separate houses that would work very well with those characters. Now, some people think they should be in a house together, but again, for that reason, that they represent two very different concepts, they would not work so well in a house, and that's the idea. The only way I have possibly imagined they might work, and I brought this up on a forum, is if they are in dire conflict with each other. In addition to the two completely different perspectives, Browning adores and idolizes the great cinema of the golden age of Hollywood, and Paulo Levinsky, the director, is a creepy little underground filmmaker who makes these little shoddy black and white 8mm films of torture and murder and death. To Browning, Levinsky is, you know, like this far away from being nothing but a cheap pornographer. He's an art criminal. You know, he's committing atrocity, he's perverting cinema, he's committing crimes against the movies. He must die! And that's how Browning would look at it. Whereas to Levinsky, This is the same shit he's gotten from critics and his whole life that have been keeping him down. Of course, there's another factor that Charles brought up, which is that, you know, Julian Browning is a spectre, a ghost, undead, creature of the night, whereas Paulo Lewinsky, as far as we know, is still alive. So there's mystery there behind that. But what would happen if they ever did encounter each other is, you know, they'd be after each other and try to destroy each other one way or another. Because their view of the movies is entirely different from each other. So that's what I would think. The only possible solution of putting them together, which I think is a bad idea and never should happen, but if they do decide to put them together, you know, that would be one way that it might kind of work if you have them at odds. Of course, if they were at odds, we would be trapped in the middle and be in a very bad place indeed, with them at each other, with us in between. Chainsaws flying through the air, and zombies, and who knows what coming off the movie screen. It would be a nightmare. But hopefully a good one. Anyway, so that basically was what I was trying to get at the end of the other video, and for that reason I finished this one up. So that's all. This doesn't need to be any longer. So until then, see you on the cutting room floor.